Welcome to the Jaren Jarvis channel. I am Jaren Jarvis. Today, I would like to introduce to you, gas station robbery. I walked in the gas station. It isn't very often that I actually have to go in to pay for gas. Almost every station all you have to do is swipe your card at the pump and fill up. This place did look kind of old though, beat up, the type of place you'd look at and, if they had a sign in the front that said, out of gas, you wouldn't be surprised. I was on my way back from visiting a friend of mine in upstate New York to my home in Maryland. I-81 can get pretty lonely at night. This was one of those nights. As I walked in, a grizzly old man sat behind the counter reading a magazine. Can't blame him, I'd be doing the same in his shoes. As I looked around the store I saw another guy, looked like he was in his late 20s, early 30s maybe, browsing the chip aisle. I went to the back to grab a drink, after which I planned on paying for gas and hitting the road again. It was gonna be a long night. Just as I grabbed a Coke I heard the bell ding signifying the opening of the door. I turned around and was greeted by a man in a heavy black sweatshirt, black hair, in his 40s I'd say. He walked in, looked around, and immediately pulled a handgun out of his front pocket. He pointed it at the old man behind the counter, and said, "Give me every cent in there you old bastard." The man panicked, and immediately opened the cash register. As he started to rip the bills out of the old machine, the man with the gun looked around at us. He yelled, "Don't look at me. Look at the ground or I'll put one right in your head you little shit." I obliged, as did the man in the chip aisle. To my knowledge, I wasn't trying to cause any trouble if I could avoid it. Staring at the ground seemed pretty easy compared to my other option. As I stared at the floor below me I felt a chill, like someone had just kicked an AC on but, like directly behind me. Every hair on my body stood on end. I could still hear the old man frantically pulling bills out of the register, but, then I heard something else. An unfamiliar voice. It was smooth and soothing, very comforting. "Hey Alex, why don't you just relax, okay?" I looked up. I had to see what was happening. A man with slicked back blonde hair, piercing green eyes, and a charcoal-colored suit stood about 10 feet from the man holding the gun. The man with the gun looked his way shocked, as was I. I didn't see the guy in the store when I had walked in but, to be fair I easily could have missed him. The guy shifted the gun towards the man in the suit. "Who the hell are you? How do you know my name?" The man in the suit smiled. "Oh Alex, I know a lot." He began to walk towards him, casually. The guy with the gun freaked out. "Stay back man. I'm warning you. I'll fuck you up man. Stop." He didn't, he kept walking until he was right in front of him. Gunshots fired, 3 in a row. I closed my eyes as the shots went off. I was scared to open them. I had to peek though, of course I did. There stood the man, 3 bullet holes in his chest. He stood there, unmoving. "Oh Alex, I didn't want to. I really didn't." He snapped his neck. The man with the gun fell to the floor. The movement to break his neck was so quick, had you blinked you'd have missed it. I stood there in utter shock. What was this? A trick? The man had 3 bullet holes in him, for Christ's sake. Silence fell on the store for about a good minute. The man in the suit broke the silence as he walked up to the old man, who was as puzzled as anyone. "How's it going old timer?" The old man sat there with his jaw hanging open. "Alfred, I know what you've done." The old man's eyes got even bigger in shock than they were before. He still didn't move, just sat there flabbergasted. "They were little girls Alfred. Children. I've seen some sick things but, you're up there." The old man began to speak but, before he could even get a word out the man in the suit grabbed him by the neck. The cracking was instant. He had shattered his neck by simply grabbing it. The old man dropped out of his chair and fell hard to the floor. I was ready to bolt for the door. Fear kept me still though. I had watched this man kill 2 other men in minutes before my very eyes. I didn't want to be next. What was I gonna do? If I ran I'd die, but, if I stayed, I might be too. The man in the suit next looked down the chip aisle. "Doug." The other man looked at him in his eyes. "Doug. You know you're next. You think I'd forget Linda? No Doug. It's time. I'll see you again soon, don't worry. The guy, Doug, I presume, ran for the door, as fast as any man I'd ever seen. He didn't get far. The man in the suit grabbed him by the back of his sweatshirt. He reached around his head, grabbed the underside of his chin and yanked it back, crushing his skull. Doug fell to the floor, like the two others before him. I was paralyzed in fear. I looked to the floor at the bodies that lay in front of me. The man in the suit started my way. I was ready, accepting it was the best way to cope, I thought in the back of my mind. I didn't look at him despite the fact that he stood inches from me, my gaze stayed fixated on the floor. His hand found my chin and lifted my head to meet his eyes. He stared at me for what felt like an eternity but was likely just seconds. No. You're not supposed to be here. I stared at him blankly. Speechless. You're not mine. Your fate is still to be set. He placed both his hands on my face, one on each cheek. Heat radiated from them, much hotter than any touch I've ever felt. Look at me, child. Go to your car. Drive. Your gas tank is full. I stood there looking at his eyes, mesmerized. I got out of my daze and walked quickly to the door before he could change his mind. Hey. My head snapped back in fear. Don't forget your drink. He tossed my Coke to me. I caught it and nodded at him. I'll be seeing you, were his final words to me. I turned back around and walked out of the store. I continued to my car and started it up. It was full, to the very brim. I don't know how, I don't know why. I know that I did exactly what he told me and drove. I didn't look back at the store and I didn't stop until I was 5 hours away from the gas station and had to fill up again. That highway is lonely. I thought about that encounter for the rest of my drive and every day since it happened. I have no answers still. I don't want any. What I want is to never fulfill the last words he spoke to me.